On July 16, 2018, Beanie Tuesday tweeted, 2018 political rising stars to keep an eye on. This is the Museum of Twitter, the show we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. It's Subscriber Sunday, where my Patreon subscribers nominate and then vote on which tweet I cover. And this time they chose one that's kind of difficult to cover, because it's not just a tweet, it is a tweet with several cartoons attached to it. Specifically, it's a series of joke cartoons by Beanie Tuesday describing fictional political figures who are rising stars in 2018. The point of it is to make fun of political archetypes. I'm not going to go through every single detail because we'd be here forever, but they are as follows. Dorian Salazar O'Malley, Holden Bloodfeast, Sex Tricker, Hillary, Weasel Srat, Stuart Paul, Gilliam Drint, Numbers 16, Dylan Sled, Dresden Norris, Scum and Norm Respectable. Now, people responded with jokes about all of these candidates, but the real reason why this tweet is important, particularly now, is because one of these candidates. That's right, Holden Bloodfeast, the 118-year-old Republican from Iowa. What are his political stances? Please, God, just let us nuke Iran. Nothing else matters. I'll do anything, please. I just want to see burning flesh one last time before I die. Also, he's a respectable bipartisan. This particular panel took on a life of its own, to the point where in 2024, Andrew the psychostatistician said, so this is where Holden Bloodfeast comes from. Neat. And in fact, yeah, I saw Holden Bloodfeast before I saw the rest of this tweet. And I think the reason why this character in particular took off so much is because he's like too real. All the aspects about him embody huge problems in American politics. One, he's way too old. He's 118. It definitely doesn't help that Iowa is actually home to the oldest person in Congress. Two, he has bloodlust for Iran, which is way too common a thing in Congress. And three, beyond the fact that he clearly is motivated by bloodlust, he is a respectable bipartisan. When the American government is at its worst, it feels like we're being ruled over by Holden Bloodfeast. And so that's why in the last 2 weeks, people have been tweeting about Holden Bloodfeast a lot, because I don't know if you guys heard this, but we dropped bombs on Iran. And very quickly, people started tweeting about Holden Bloodfeast. Olympics Jeremy said, one must imagine Holden Bloodfeast happy. And very quickly, the joke moved on to the idea that Holden Bloodfeast finally let go. He finally passed away now that he got to see Iran bombed. Polling USA declared on June 22nd, rest in peace, Holden Bloodfeast, R. Iowa. And Roma Domus said, the saga of Holden Bloodfeast, respectable bipartisan, is complete. And soon a new cartoon was made showing his gravestone, which reads, H. Bloodfeast, devout father, grandfather, and Christian. And his description is now, passed away at 119 years old. Watched Donald Trump use B-2s to bomb Iran. Passed away immediately afterwards with a smile and tear trailing from his eye. Respectable bipartisan. Lindsey Graham and John Fetterman attended his funeral. And in something that should surprise no one, this joke was made a lot on Blue Sky last week. JD for Safe Streets said, finally getting his day. Do Not Eat said, just glad my man Holden is having a great day. Chaddy Stevens said, this guy's having a great night. And I think all of these comments are made extra funny when you actually look at the cartoon. It's so crazy that despite being extremely poorly drawn, it is like the perfect encapsulation of an old politician who's clinging to life just to do something awful. And multiple politicians have been accused of being Holden Bloodfeast. A slight problem with that is that the actual biggest Iran hawks in Congress are not 118 years old. Like, for example, Punish Swab said it about Lindsey Graham when Lindsey Graham said, time to take the war to the Ayatollah's backyard. And American Solidarity Party said it about Congressman Randy Fine when he said, the bombings will continue until morale improves. That is an elected representative who said that, by the way. But I like to think of Holden Bloodfeast as like the amalgam of everything wrong with American politics. And I really do want to hammer home the last line, because I really think that that's the thing that's so annoying about Holden Bloodfeast. Not the character, the Holden Bloodfeast of the world, I mean. That you would think that having this much bloodlust would make you a pariah in Washington, but like, having bloodlust for wars in the Middle East is like the most acceptable thing you can have in Washington. And that causes some really awful incentives, as we've seen over the past few weeks. But anyway, rest in peace to Holden Bloodfeast, yada yada. And let me just quickly go through some jokes about the other candidates. Referencing Dylan Sled, Jewel said that free college, free healthcare, free schmurda is my politics. Tumultuous Noise said that Dorian Salazar O'Malley, the community organizer, runs on a budget of small donations from his neighbors, facing a guy who has been divorced 30 times and still has $100 million in the bank that he uses to fund his campaign. And as someone who grew up in Florida and whose family still lives in Florida and pays a lot of attention to Florida politics, I agree with Better Read Than Dead when he says that this is Ron DeSantis. The reason why these cartoons are still funny and why they're still relevant years later is because American politics often gives us a bunch of terrible choices. And the reasons for that are complicated, and I don't have time to get into them in this video. And I don't say complicated meaning that they're justified, I mean like they actually are complicated. And there's no easy fix to it, I don't think. But I do think at every opportunity we need to loudly say with one voice that we don't want to be represented by Holden Bloodfeast. Follow me for a new tweet every day, and if you want to vote on Subscriber Sundays like these, please join my Patreon, patreon.com/Museum of Twitter, and you also get a bonus episode every Sunday called the Museum of Not Twitter.